This week's lesson is going to be a bit different. It is going to be the introduction of GUI in Java. GUI stands for Graphical User Interface. Every single program in the modern day has GUI to make it easy for the user to use. The GUI is essentially how the program looks. It refers to different buttons, colors, and text that is seen on your screen to create a lived program. Without a GUI, all of our programs would just be text in the output box. All the code we did in the previous 4 lessons had no GUI, nor any user input. When the user has the ability to do something within the program, it makes it immersive. Without this user input, you might as well call your program an animation that appears on your screen for the user to watch. Today, we are going to teach you how to create a new window for your program that will serve as your GUI. It will become the bulk of your program, and the user will be able to click, type, and select things within this GUI in order to make the program run in a specific way that you want it to. NetBeans has a tool called JFrame that will help us design our GUI with no coding experience. Then, we will be able to use code to bring our GUI to life and make certain buttons and switches actually output things. First off, Samesh will teach you guys how to create a new project. Creating a new project with a GUI is a bit different than the projects we have been doing before. If you have any questions, feel free to email us later. I will now pass it on to Samesh.
Alright guys, so as Jason Drop mentioned, we are going to be learning the GUI for today. And I've kind of switched my screen recorder, so there's kind of a watermark over here now, so hopefully it doesn't bother you guys too much. It's just that I needed to switch it because I'm going to be showing you guys some extra windows and stuff that isn't offered from my previous screen recorder. Alright, so from now on when we're making projects, we're not going to make it the same way that we made it before. This time, it's going to be a bit different. So the first thing we want to do is obviously make a new project, the same way we would make it before, and click Java application the same way as before as well. However, this time we're going to not select create main class. Before we were always selecting this time we're going to deselect it. And we're just going to call it GUI program. You can call it anything you want, obviously. And now it still appears as a regular program over here. It's just that there's going to be some things that you notice are going to be a bit different. So when we click it and open here, we have our package, but there isn't really anything we can open. Before, for a project over here, we can open something and it's the package icon is shaded in. However, this time there's nothing here because we deselected the main class. So what you have to do is right click, and hopefully you guys can still see this drop down menu that appeared. If not, I'll show some screenshots at the end perhaps. But you want to right click and then you want to click new. And then when you're hovering over new, you want to select JFrame form. Select something called JFrame form. So once again, right click the default package thing, hover over new, and select JFrame form, which should be near to the top. And then this window should pop up. And then you can call your class name, you can call it, I would recommend just calling it the same thing as what you called your program. So I'm just going to call it a GUI program again. And for package, we're going to select nothing. Or actually, no, sorry. We're not going to select nothing. We're just going to name a package wherever you want. And once again, just kind of make it consistent and just name the package the same thing as well. So you have the class name as GUI program, and then the package, don't put any capital letters in the package. I mean, if you want, you can, but I just would prefer that you don't, but it's fine if you do as well. And then you click finish. And now you guys can see that our area to work with looks a bit different. We're brought up to like this new rectangle over here, and there's no place to write code. Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to see this little menu over here, where right now we're selected design. However, there's an option to select history, and there's an option to select source. So if we select source, we're entering the program again. And right off the bat, we're seeing a lot of different things. We still see the public static void main thing. However, there's a bunch of stuff inside of it that we have no idea what it is. Like, what is this over here? Well, for the purpose of this course, you don't need to worry about what it is. essentially, as you know, what we told you before is whatever we put here is the main thing that we begin to run. And what it essentially activates is it runs this new GUI program. And you know, the class that we did and we taught you guys before, and in the class we actually see it, and it executes a command called Init Components. So what this is essentially doing is once the program runs, it looks through this same, you know, public static void main thing, and then it looks over here and it's saying, okay, well, we have this over here, and then we also have run this new GUI program and make it so we can see it. And then over here is the actual program, which gives us the command of Init Components. And you know, Init Components, it's essentially something that's going to be pre-coded by the program for you guys. However, it's still going to appear in your program. And it might sound a bit confusing. However, I'm going to teach you guys what exactly that means. And it has something to do with this design tab over here. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be designing our thing over here, just as how we would design something kind of like on, you know, Microsoft Word or you know, Photoshop or something. We're going to design it here, and it's going to just translate it into code for us. And we're still going to make that, whatever we designed here, we're going to make it come alive with our own code afterwards. However, it's okay if we kind of use a template just to set everything up. All right, let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm looking for is my palette, and it's essentially all the tools I can put onto my actual frame. Now I don't see it anywhere, and if you guys don't see it anywhere as well on your screen, don't worry, all you have to do is click Window, and then select IDE Tools, and then select Palette. And then all you have to do is click it, and then it'll appear over here. Now once again, this might have already appeared for you guys. It's just if it isn't there, then you can just do that trick and you can open it up. So what exactly is this palette? What exactly am I making? Well, as Jasija mentioned at the start, what we're creating is a GUI, which is going to be something useful for our program. It creates a visual component for our program. Obviously, not all the apps you see in the modern day are just like us typing stuff in a chat, in a text. We want to actually create, you know, things that are easy for people to click and just type in, and, you know, create an interface for someone. So the first thing we're going to be working with, just for the purpose of this lesson, just to create our first GUI program, is we're just going to work with something called a button. And you just have to drag it all the way into your frame and let go. And just like that, we have a button in our program. So how do we edit what this button says? Well, all you have to do is right click and click edit text to say what the button is. So for the purpose of this, I'm just going to call it, let's just call it red. And now I have a button that says red, and it became a bit smaller once I did it. And I can drag it anywhere I want inside of this frame that I created, to JFrame. Another thing I can do is I can also, and this is what I recommend for you guys to do, is to change variable name. Variable? Well, what does this mean? Well, let's just click it. Right now, the program is going to call this button JButton1. We want to make sure it has a specific name so it can get referenced easier later on. So let's just call it red button for now. You want to make sure that, you know, all of your buttons and everything over here, you want to make sure you're changing variable name and you're giving it a specific name that you know and you can recognize in your program. So let's click OK. Alright, so right now we have one button called red. Let's just create another button, drag it here, add a text, and let's call it blue. And obviously, once again, change variable name, blue button. Awesome. So we have our two buttons over here, and if I wanted to, I can make it bigger if I want. And I'm going to do that right here, just by dragging it. That's how easy it is to use this NetBeans IDE. So you can already see how useful it is for you guys to make your own type of GUIs for hackathon specifically, because, you know, in a hackathon you're in a time limit, and this is kind of a fast way for you just to make your programs and kind of even show like universities that you know like how to create this type of stuff. So let's just have red and blue. And now here's where the fun part comes. So, you know, obviously there's a bunch of other stuff you can do here too, like properties. If you click properties, obviously you can change the background, and we'll teach you more about this customization if you want later on in future lessons. It's just, you know, right now we're just going to keep it basic, but there's a lot of, like, you know, you can change the font, you know, the sizes of the text. There's a lot of customizable opportunities for you guys. But here's the real good part. All you have to do now to go back to your code for this program. So right now we're in the GUI program, you know, the project I just created. To go back to the code in this program, all you gotta do is click source. And now, if it works, hang on. Alright guys, it should be working. I'm gonna just double check, hang on. Alright guys, so I think I figured it out. So essentially, now that you added those two buttons, you should see this little gray area over here with these two declarations of the buttons. This is essentially what the variable declaration was talking about, and as you can see here, it already gave you the name that you selected, so it automatically did that process for you. And once again, you don't have to worry about this part here. All what this part is doing is it's executing this part over here, which is, you know, all pre-run by the NetBeans program, and we can explain more about that later. But to actually edit the code and to actually make the buttons do something, what you want to do is go back to design and double click on them. Once you double click it, you should get a new kind of text over here. And as you can see here, there's a new option to put our code here. And it says private void red button action performed. And guys, what this means is when I click the red button, when I click this button right here, this following code is going to happen. It's essentially kind of like an if-else statement. However, we don't have to do the if-else anymore because it's made more simpler for us. Because now, all we have to do is just, you know, if the red button is clicked, let's just say we want to make the thing say, this is the red button. All it's going to do is it's going to output that. And that's the only code we have to write, really. And if you want to do it with the blue button, all you have to do is double click the blue button and it appears on our source. It appears in our program. And all you have to do, once again, you might as well just like copy and paste the same code from before and just do the same thing. This is the blue button. And now what's going to happen is when the program runs, instead of it doing something with the text over here, it's going to, once again, it's going to go over here and it's going to notice that, okay, what this line is essentially doing is, all right, it's going to open up a new window. And once that happens, it's going to run the specific program we created, and it's going to make it so we can see what's happening. And then over here, we kind of have a generated code that is going to run. And there's an option to click plus over here, and bam, you can see all of the code that just got generated for us. And what this code is doing is it's essentially everything we did on the design section, it's now put into actual code that we no longer have to type, we no longer have to edit, we don't have to touch it or anything. So as you can see here, it declared the red button, it set its text to red, blue button, it set its text to blue, and it added an action listener. An action listener is just something, you know, what allows the button to become an actual button. You know what I mean? And here's like, you know, ordering, adding the gaps and like moving the buttons around, everything. That's all been taken care of. We can just click minus and we don't have to see it again. So really the only part we have to understand is, okay, well, our program let's run here, it runs this, and once this runs, it's doing all of this. And then this part over here is where we can kind of do the conditional statements, where it's like, okay, so this code is going to happen, whatever's inside of these two curly brackets, this is going to happen when the red button action is performed, so when it's clicked. And this one's going to happen when the blue is clicked. So let's run our program. Let's click play, and this is a new pop-up that comes up. All you have to do is select OK, and you have to select the class that you want. So for this one, if you were working on multiple projects, there might be multiple options. Make sure you're selecting the right class, the GUI package, GUI program, everything. So just make sure you have, you know, the same name for everything. And I just noticed that I called my thing GUI package instead of GUI program. Doesn't really matter. Just make sure that all three of these names are pretty similar, so it's just easier to, like, you know, group everything together in your own folders. Alright, so I just click OK, and it should load. It takes a while to load for the first time, but it should work, hopefully. Alright, it worked. Awesome. So as you can see here, nothing's appeared. Usually, you know, we were working with stuff and it was appearing over here, but nothing appeared over there. It appeared in this new window, which is the JFrame, which is why it executes this Init Components code, which is why it's generating this generated code to create this window for us. And notice we didn't actually have to code it. All we did was just drag and drop it and design it any way we wanted to. And now when I click the red button, bow, over here in the output, we see this is the red button. And I can click it as many times as I want. This is the red button, this is the red button, this is the red button. And obviously I can click the blue button as well. And I can alternate, and I can do it for as long as I want. I can sit here forever, and I can just keep clicking these buttons over and over again. And that's kind of the amazing part about NetBeans is, you know, something like this would have taken a long time to teach you guys, like, yo, how to code all of this stuff here. But the purpose of Hack Club, the purpose of all of this really is to help you guys for, you know, getting into a comp-sci field, useful tricks and hackathons and stuff. So this right here is very useful. And, you know, when you get to university, you would probably actually begin to learn all of this stuff to a fuller extent. It's just for the time being, you guys can kind of learn what's up in the meantime. And obviously it's still open over here. I can keep clicking red, and it's appearing in my output, which is over here. And once I close it, and it's finished. And then I can click play again, and it just runs again. And, you know, the output is being outputted over and over again in the same place. So that's it for today's lesson. Okay guys, thank you so much for paying attention and viewing this week's lesson. Hopefully you guys learned a lot of new stuff. You know, all of this stuff with the NetBeans program is stuff that you don't learn until grade 12. And I feel like learning all this GUI would be extremely useful for you guys. And also for your homework, all I want you guys to do is to create your own GUI program with 4 different buttons. In this example, we just had 2 different buttons. I want you guys to create 4 different programs, or 4 different buttons in your GUI frame, and for each button it needs to output something different. So you can make it so that each button is a different color, or each button is a different word, each button's a different name, and it just outputs a different word or name or color for each single button. And just send a picture of your program. You can send a picture of your GUI by itself as well, but I would prefer just, you know, sending a picture of your program, and it'll be easier. Alright guys, so that's everything. Next week we're going to get into more GUI stuff about like text boxes and selecting stuff like that, and it's going to be really fun. And over the next couple of weeks we're going to be creating some really awesome programs with this GUI feature. So feel free to, you know, do your own research while you're waiting. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.